In this upcoming episode, we're going to talk about building businesses and investing in real estate. Did Robert Kiyosaki get it right all those years ago? In this episode, you'll find out. Let's go! Hey everybody, how's it going? Russell Westcott. Hope you're having yourself a wonderful day. Upcoming episode you are going to thoroughly love. In this episode, I had a great opportunity to sit down with a very good friend, one of the best men at my wedding, in fact. And we sat down on his ranch at home for more than 2 hours, cracked a couple adult beverages, and we had an in-depth conversation. And in that in-depth conversation, we had an opportunity to go deep into many topics. We talked life, we talked real estate, we talked relationships, we talked about building a portfolio, and we talked about building a business around your real estate investing. And if you're interested in taking your real estate investing from a hobby to a full-time business, you will thoroughly love this episode. With all that being said, please help me welcome my business partner, Mr. Jason Mattern. All right, welcome back, everybody. So first and foremost, everybody, let's listen. That is what peace and quiet sounds like. We're here with my good friend. I'm going to get right to it. So Jason Mattern. Welcome. Good to see you, Rusty. Holy moly. Tell you, if you ever get a chance to shake that hand, that's an experience you'll never, ever forget. So we're out on Jason's, it's a ranch, I guess you would call it, the farm.
I guess all intents and purposes, sure.
Yeah. How much land do you have here, brother?
We've got just over 4 acres.
4 acres.
We're just outside of Sherwood Park, about 9 miles. So you wouldn't know it where we're sitting here, but there's literally 1 million people on our doorstep 10 minutes that way.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool.
So we're, you know what, here's the cool thing is we've had some really cool backdrops for what we've had for some of these interviews. We've been on the ocean. We've been in front of people's fireplaces. What I've really been wanting to do is create an atmosphere of where people feel really comfortable. This is home, this is family, and this is where you feel most comfortable. Some of the most important things in your life is home and family.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, circling right back around, family's number one.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where it all happens. We all have business lives and we all do what we do, but, you know, we all get to, turn that tap off and come home. And, you know, at the end of the day, to me anyhow, this is what matters. Not so much the assets or the physical things, but, you know, the family that, love and, love being here, cherish being here.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have so many places we can go. Jay, we could probably talk for weeks.
And we have.
And we have talked for weeks on end. But what I wanted to do is, I don't think enough people know who you are yet. And I'd like to change that a little bit, is I think you need to get out there a little bit. But you're a very private guy, right? At the same time. I always start off with these interviews with a little bit of background and context. And maybe you can just share with everybody watching where you're from and what led you to this path of real estate, and maybe what what you've accomplished so far. And I can fill in some of the gaps because we've known each other for what?
Probably 15 years? Scraping 20 years.
Yeah, getting close to it. Yeah. So I both of us have a history that coincides, but I'd like to know, maybe share with everyone where you started with this.
Okay. Well, getting right back to basics, I'm from a small town farming community, and that's where I grew up. And I think that's probably a lot of the values and a lot of the approach that I take on life today, where it started. And, but that being said, back in the, mid to late 90s, there wasn't a lot of opportunity in those types of town. And, a lot of people were moving to the major centers to capture an opportunity. And, I did that. It wasn't shortly after that, to where I got involved in real estate. I did read, there was one specific book that I read that kind of changed my mindset at a very high level of my outlook on life as far as, planning for the future and money, financial related. At the end of the day, it boiled down to money, right? And, creating what you want from it. So, I got my real estate license, shortly after that as a realtor. And
that book was Rich Dad Poor Dad, wasn't it?
That book was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I wasn't know if I was allowed to say or not, but
I'm sure Robert Kiyosaki, once he becomes part of this program too, we'll be okay with that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But it was, just the basic concept of that book of showing you how to acquire assets, whether that be business or real estate. And, I've moved on in both of those aspects with business and real estate. And, I guess fast forwarding today, that's kind of evolved around my 3 core values of, time, family, freedom, and elaborating on those. Time, one thing my dad has always told me, time waits for no man and damn few women, right? And just looking at it, it's the one commodity in life that we never get more of, right? And you never know when your clock's done, and it happens that quick. And the other 2, family and freedom, is the businesses and the real estate, create the freedom that I need to spend with my family as I wish. And it's that simple, right?
Yeah. Now you've built a portfolio of properties yourself. I like to consider you're not just a realtor. Some people say, well, he's a realtor. No, Jay's actually so much more. You actually know a lot more about real estate than I do and probably will ever do. You've done, you've built properties, you've developed, multifamily, you've condo converted, I would call it almost the cycle. You've almost done all kinds of different, all the different realms of real estate. So you're a very modest guy in sharing that. So maybe just share a little bit of your background about how much, type of real estate that you've done. And we don't have to share the exact numbers, if you will, but just how much you've done and how many real estate investors you have helped out along the way.
Okay. Fair enough. That's, I guess just backing up and being a realtor, I didn't know where to start. And a lot of the things that I've done, I guess, throughout the course of my career in real estate has been a lot of trial and error. You see people doing things, you investigate them, they look like a profitable venture, and not everything I've done has been profitable. I mean, I've learned from the school of hard knocks, but at the end of the day, it's made me who I am today, from having that experience. But, the experience, I guess, of doing condo conversions, building new construction, owning multifamily, owning suited properties, owning side by sides, just all of that has come full circle and actually created, what it is today. And I'm very thankful for that, because throughout like a condo conversion process, it's there's a lot to learn. There's the managing of the corporation, the setting it up, and just I think that 5-mile view of looking at it not only from a real estate agent view, from a condo manager view, from a developer view, a builder view, you just kind of see as I say, the 5-mile view of maybe what works and what doesn't. And I've always chased what I'm comfortable with, because, any deal you get in front of you, you have to look, you have to analyze it, and I didn't know this up front. And, anything I get into now and I'm looking at, one of the first things I look at is the time commitment to it, and to make sure that it actually not only matches, but it's going to contribute to our lifestyle. And, I guess being a real estate agent and helping a lot of investors along the way, we can only go so far as recommending information. And at the end of the day, the investors, it's always their choice. Yep. It's our job to give them the information to make an informed decision. But I've seen a lot of, I guess, fortunately had the ability to see a lot of, experience, not only my own, but to see that through other people, and see people get caught up in an opportunity and they, take the opportunity and maybe it wasn't the right thing because it didn't fit with their family or whatever, right? But I think today, looking at it, that's kind of what it's boiled down to is step number one. Yeah, and I consider you, I consider you a very good friend, but I also, if somebody doesn't know you as well as I do, I actually consider you much more than just a real estate agent. You're actually almost an advisor. In certain respects, you actually, because some of the properties you've owned yourself, many of the properties you own yourself, you actually have a hand in the design of some of them as well. And you provide a lot more of guidance, and not quite to the point of coaching, but you actually provide a really almost a hand-holding experience to a lot of people just to make sure it fits with their lifestyle, because you've seen a lot of round pegs and square holes over the years. Yeah, and it seems to be a common thing. And I mean, let's face it, Russ, with the day of the internet and information, even 10 years ago, it didn't fly like it does now, but there's so much information out there. There's so much, I'll call it fuzz of everyone, having an opinion on it. And, on that note, I think it's good to listen. It's always good to listen. I'm the quiet guy in the corner, always listening and maybe not saying too much at first. And, at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and your family. Yeah. not only time-wise, but to ensure we're getting these real estate assets for a reason. We need to make sure we get that reason someday, right?
And you, no, we're going to get there. One of the threads of conversation we're going to have is you're probably one of the most detail-orientated person when it comes to the plan that you've put in place. And we're going to talk about the plan that you put in place. We won't share maybe the exact numbers, but you just have such a simple and pragmatic plan, and you're just working daily to just get there. But just talking more about your story, and sorry if this sounds like it's about me, but how did we meet, Jay? Tell me the story about how we met, and what was your first thoughts after when we first met way back when?
Well, I know we were introduced through that organization, through Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, this is going back again, back to 2001 or 2002, I think.
Yeah, I think one of those years.
Somewhere's in there. And you know what? I look at it now, Russ, my first impression, you were organized. You were very detailed. You asked a shitload more questions than anyone else that I'd talked to. But you come with an actual plan, and most people aren't like that. No disrespect intended, but most people are, I guess just moving forward, maybe on advice or whatever, but you actually had a plan in place and you were here to accomplish it. Right. And I think, now looking back, we were both new, we were both getting into it. But I feel over the years, we've actually had a chance to learn together too, which is good. We've had a lot of good experiences and bad experiences financially together, in those same travels, and it's all good. But, I think just knowing you and your personality over the years and knowing what makes you tick, I think probably right back at you. You're probably one of them. I've never seen anyone hold to a plan or a detail like you do. And I know your routine is very routine. You're very regiment with it. And, I wish I could be more like that. I'm not, but it's something I admire about you anyways. Well,
we both have made a few mistakes along the way and all those kind of wonderful things. So you've built a portfolio of real estate. You've helped out a lot of investors. You shared this number once of ballpark number of investor transactions you have helped with or been part of on that as well. Do you remember that number you shared with me?
Yeah, I'm right around 2,200 transactions. 2,200 transactions, just a couple over, I believe. Yeah.
So here's what you want to say is, guys, if you want somebody to write an offer for you, you want somebody who's written 2,200 offers, or whatever that number is. If maybe it was just on that, you want somebody who's an expert at the transaction, right? And not only that, you actually own properties yourself. Right. Yeah,
absolutely. At the two, again, right from my initial plan, worked hand in hand, a family and all that stuff has happened after that. But when I was a single guy when I originally got into the business. And I don't think, and Russ, this about me, I call it lead with trust. I don't think you can actually stand in front of someone and recommend something and actually give an opinion unless you've done it yourself. And I think, working back, a lot of the experience that I have done has made me better at, maybe safeguarding some of those clients that are coming in front of us and saying, you know what, I've done that before. Let's look at structuring the offer or condition or term this way. And here's why. Because I've lost or gained as a result of that. And I've learned, right?
And your attitude is truly, and I could say this from experience, your attitude is doing what's best for the person and not what's best for getting a transaction done.
You have to. You absolutely have to. And that's one thing I learned early on. And again, that's, I'll thank my dad for that, because I grew up in an environment where my mom and dad were in small business all the time. And, you always do what's best for the customer. If you do what's best for the customer, the money always finds you as a result. And we stay true to that to this day. It's just, we keep waking up every day, and you know what? We get some shitty days. You wake up and you have a crummy day sometimes. And, sometimes that's probably an excuse just to shut her down early and come home and spend time with your family, and get a good rest. And the next day it starts all over again, and you do it the best you can every day.
Yeah. So along the way now, primary context of this interview series is a lot around raising capital. And we're going to go a couple different directions here. But you have worked with money partners in the past. And, here's the message is you actually don't have to have a lot of money partners. The thing is you actually have to have some really good relationships with your money partners. How many money partners have you worked with over the years?
I would say 6 total.
6 total, yeah.
And 5 of those have been on, shorter term investments, whether it be, I don't want to say flips, but they're flips like, developments or condo conversions, stuff like that. And truthfully, we've got one money partner that we've had long term, for long term holding assets. And I think if I can, it kind of boils down to the same philosophy with any business or, asset that you're going to acquire. You have to make sure, for me anyhow, that person has, the same, core values in life. And that's what it boiled down to. And, recognizing of what they want and how you can help them and vice versa. And the two, it just becomes very easy. I've got, the best, partner, I think, as far as long-term assets that anyone could have. And I only have one.
Yeah. You don't need hundreds. You don't need dozens. You don't need dozens,
I didn't.
Yeah.
And you know what, Russ? It's not from trying. I sat kneecap to kneecap with probably literally dozens of people and just trying to find the fit, and actually got to the point of even signing documents sometimes. And then, very early on, I was just like, this isn't for me. It just all of a sudden turned one-sided, and, it's got to be a win-win, right?
Yeah. So with that, primarily one partner right now, you actually have a portfolio between yourself and your wife, and with that other person, to really, once that portfolio is free and clear, you're going to be able to live off of that quite comfortably, will you not?
Yeah.
And you had a plan, and you said you had a number that you shared with me, what you were trying to accomplish right from the beginning. You mind sharing that number?
No, and we've stayed true to that, and backing up, I guess, just a couple steps to that is that's how this all started between the real estate and the businesses, right? I look at the real estate holdings, and we've got, some stocks and RSPs and stuff like that, but we all know how they perform, at least for me anyhow, right? But the real estate was the one thing that I knew and could understand and I could make sense of, and I could see progression with it, right? And I was in control of it, right? And it boiled down to actually knowing how much money, basically what we wanted, right, in life, right, and when we wanted it, and how much money is it going to take to accomplish that. Yep. And basically just kind of reverse engineered. And that money, was $40,000 a month passive income. Yep. And, we don't have that passive income yet, but we're getting awful close to where our portfolio of properties that we have, we're getting to the point of getting some clear titles here in the very near future. And that's, just going to accelerate it. But just keeping it simple. On the flip side to that, the cash flow side, everyone needs money to live, right? And this is where the business and being a real estate agent come into it. I know, from a household perspective, and having fun bucks and all that sort of stuff, how much money we need to do. It's my goal to support that and my mission to support that. And also with business, it's also my mission to take excess capital and accelerate my mortgage principal reduction as fast as I can. And that's where I'm at today is, I'm not saying we're not adding to our portfolio. I'm more fussy with deals, right? But the deals are still coming. We're still acquiring a building or two a year. And, but it's just, getting to that point of getting these things paid for. Yep.
Slow and steady wins the race.
I think so. Right.
So guys, we're just getting warmed up. And quite frankly, we're going to start off, and you can definitely see these are water. Right. There may, as the temperature, for now, as the temperature gets up, and maybe the color of the beverage may change a little bit as we get rolling. So I'm just going to do a real quick reset of the cameras here, and then we're going to come back. I'm going to dive into what I call, it's something you pioneered, and I've heard you talk a lot about, the 15-year plan and how you potentially can get a free and clear portfolio of properties within 15 years. It's funny. I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people nowadays, brand new investors, and everybody's all about, leverage and leverage and leverage more and buy it. I get it. I trust me, I get it. But at the end of the day, we got to pay for them all. We got to have them all paid off, right?
I played that game too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we both peaked out at a lot more properties than we currently own, and sometimes more is not the answer.
No.
Right? Just like our hairlines.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to just reset the cameras and we'll be right back. And we're back. And Jay, what's this in front of us? Huh?
Well, you know what? On that note, yeah, you're probably not ever going to come to my house on a day that's 30 above and not drink a beer with me. So
cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have a beer every once in a while. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So here with my good friend, Jason Mattern. Jason, you're the owner of Tri-Urban Real Estate, CEO and owner, principal owner. You've invested in properties yourself. You've also, you've coined a little bit of kind of a strategic map for people of how somebody can potentially own a portfolio of properties free and clear. And, the rough numbers, it's shaking out around 15 years that it's coming through. And it's around with some new construction properties. But you're actually doing this yourself. Is kind of the way that you're doing this yourself. And you're proving this with almost like a live case study. So maybe just share with everyone what your thoughts and your plans and what the strategy is and how would someone be able to take care of that themselves or do it themselves?
Okay. Well, the strategy is stupid simple. It's, pay for it as fast as you can. Yeah. And I think,
the old-fashioned way. It's actually pay for it.
Pay for it. Yeah. I know the leverage game. And you know what? I think there's a time for that. And, we may be getting into that market situation. We will have to see what happens. There's a lot to iron out, but where you can get, into a market where you can see capital appreciation, coming, it's a good time to maybe play the leverage game. But at the end of the day, you still have to pay for these things. You don't get the cash flow from them unless you pay for them. And, if you decide what that number is, we can now select a property and match it to your lifestyle and pay for this thing in roughly 15 years. Mm-hmm. The, methodology or the method behind it is again, simple. It's, buy property. I never touch it. I never touch any equity from it.
You don't refinance a property after you bought it. I
do not refinance. I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You learned that lesson the hard way.
I learned that lesson, right? And, it's, you just, increase your timeline, I guess, that you have to pay for it. So, again, I don't take any equity out on it, right? I buy a property that is low maintenance and I look at a property as, like looking at, we've talked about this, like a window sticker in a car when it says 36 miles per gallon. Okay, yeah, right. On a day like this, driving across Saskatchewan downhill with a slight tailwind. And, there's speed and hills and, weather that contribute to car. Well, that same thing in the real estate side is, vacancy, repairs and maintenance and your management costs. Yeah. And the more we can eliminate and mitigate those variables, the better our properties perform. That said, I prefer the slow, steady route. There's no doubt I can buy properties that perform better on a monthly cash flow basis. And you know what? For those of you that have the time to take care of them, I'd recommend buying them because they will accelerate it even faster. But for me, the times, I got kids in sports and I'm I'm a dad, and I got lots to take care of, as you can see. And I love taking care of this stuff. Yeah. I love driving my John Deere tractor around and mowing grass, so it's got to kind of compute to that. But the second step to that is I make a yearly payment every year. Yeah,
a lump sum over and above.
Over and above my payments. And you know what? Some years it's been a little skinnier, but I take cumulative cash flow, I stockpile it. Yep. And then what happens is I kind of run our portfolio like a condo manager would run a reserve fund study. I kind of look a year ahead or 5 years ahead and say, okay, I'm going to need money here, here, and here for whatever else, right? Maybe the neighbor mentioned he wants to do a fence and I got to allocate $3,000 for my share. I set that money aside and whatever's left, I keep a reserve on top of that. And by what a reserve, I would say 3 to 6 month operating cost is reasonable in my eyes, right? I keep that on hand. Anything else I put on pay down.
Yep.
And
there's accelerate the pay down.
Accelerate. And it helps people. It absolutely helps. I know, some years I've only been able to do a 500 or 1,000, but I still do it. And it just decreases your amortization overall. And as we've mentioned before, the real benefit of owning real estate comes when you have the mortgage paid for, you still own the asset, and away we go.
And it's just music to my ears with the wind chimes blowing through. So at the end of the day, I say this to many people is, truly we're only renting until you actually own it and have it free and clear. You're actually you're a renter. You're renting the money from the bank. And then you're in turn putting another renter in the place, and hopefully the rent they pay you is greater than the rent you have to pay to the bank, plus all the business expenses. And you're truly just paying it down. You don't own it until you actually have it free and clear.
True, yeah. But on the flip side to that, it's like we as investors have other people paying our mortgages down for us. So I don't. It can't get much easier, in my opinion. Now, you got some stuff to manage with that. Yeah, you got to come up with down payment money. That's all part of the sequence. But, the long-term benefit of having someone else pay down your mortgage makes sense.
And you have managed during, arguably down time in the market, like when I've had conversations with some people and they're saying that, man, cash flow has been really bad. I've had cash calls. I've had to do this, that, or the other. I have to do that with my own portfolio, some of my older stuff. You've managed to do that during a really soft time in the marketplace, that you've managed to actually accelerate the payment down.
Yes.
And that's 100% based upon because you haven't had to dump in money into maintenance. And you shared some numbers with me where you were actually the black and white numbers because you still have some properties in your portfolio that are, the 30 and 40-year-old
older ones,
and you have some brand new ones. Mm-hmm. Maybe just share the split of, how many new versus how many old. And then you shared a maintenance number that just floored me and it was like you're looking at your books for almost like a year and a half or 2 years almost.
It's not even close for us. The money that we save by owning new construction it's not even comparable. And we're talking ratios probably 50 to 1 maintenance costs on this side versus this side, right? And that's the reality of it, though. When you're buying an older property, they take maintenance, and I'll contribute some of that too is actually the tenant profile that you attract.
Right.
Our older properties, and some of them are older townhomes, 30, 40-year-old townhomes. No disrespect to the tenants. They have needs and budgets and stuff that they have to live within. But that, one step up of a tenant profile, it seems to work better for us. Again, it's something that's probably you can't pinpoint on the individual, but it's worked better for us as an overall
because
strategy.
You eat your own cooking because it fits with your lifestyle. Right. As a guy who's full-time in this business, you could, if you wanted to, go out and get a big giant apartment building and been there, done that.
Had a couple,
a couple of those. You could do an entire project and do a big giant development and things like that, which you are doing a lot of those kind of things too on the side to make the money. But you're choosing to keep your assets and the properties you hold as the nice, slow and steady, eventually will get paid off. And then you can live off of that to that tune of $40,000 a month.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, so that's kind of level one. That's step one in, the Mattern plan or the Mattern evolution of what, I know, my family, I've got 2 children, I want to be able to provide, for the people that I'm going to know in my life. And that probably equates to my kids and my grandkids and hopefully my great grandkids, if I can make that difference financially or start of that asset base for them. But, that's step one. So once I get there, we'll see. I have zero intention of slowing down is not the right word, but, removing myself from the business. I love it. Mm-hmm. It's easy I don't even think I work, to be honest. It doesn't even feel like I work. I mean, I absolutely love what I do. It's easy for me to get up, in the morning and go, deal hunting, deal hounding and deal with people. And I love it. So once I get to that point and I've got things paid for, I know there's a big check mark and now I can reevaluate and move forward accordingly, right?
I could attest to that. As I was sitting here setting up, Jason was on the phone. And I know he's right in the middle of thought when he starts pacing. He gets on the phone and he's pacing and he's talking deals and all that and that wonderful stuff. You're actively involved in deals all the time. whether it's your own or whether it's other people's, things like that. And that's what keeps you alive and keeps you inspired to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it all comes back to home, doesn't it?
Well, it all comes back to home, and it comes down really, Russ, like the money, all the money aside, because it's what you like to do, it's what you want to do, it's what you're good at. I think every one of us have a God-given talent that resides inside of us that sometimes you don't figure it out right away. I know I didn't, right? I chased several shiny things before I was finally come full circle. And I know what I love to do, and I'm really good at it. And it's hard for some people to go bang on a door and talk to someone you don't know. You know what? It's quite easy for me to talk to a stranger and talk and, hunt deals and negotiate and.
So this plan, so where are you in this whole plan that you identified with the 15, potentially free and clear in 15 years? This is what we've coined it a little bit.
Yeah.
You're 5 years in, aren't you, right now of that, or is it a little?
No, we're 6-7 years in, so we're about halfway.
Halfway.
On that. Yeah.
And are you right on target to potentially having that portfolio free and clear?
I would say we're a little ahead of schedule. A little ahead of schedule, and that's basically nothing other than doing good in business and being able to contribute extra.
Right.
We haven't done anything out of the ordinary as far as, maintaining the properties or the portfolios or mortgage principal reduction as far as the payments themselves. It's just we've been fortunate enough to make a little extra money that we've been able to chisel down a little bit faster.
Right. And then so you do a little bit of a snowball too. You pay off one property, don't you? And then you start taking all the surplus cash flow from that, and then you take it to the next one. And don't you target the highest interest rate ones, or? It
just makes sense. I think if any, you watched any of the Susie Orman shows or anything like that, it's no different with this. You tackle the most ugly one first, as far as interest rate wise, and you're right. It turns into a snowball effect.
How do you analyze this? How do you keep track of if you're on? Do you have a scorecard or a spreadsheet, or how do you keep track of this? Whether if you're on target or path, or do you just know? Is it all up here, or do you actually have some systems and processes and all that kind of stuff?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Of course, I keep a spreadsheet myself.
Yeah.
To me, that's just me. I'm the quick glance guy. I don't, study the shit out of stuff. I mean, it's got to make sense. And I like to glance, and, I make decisions very quickly based on that. Yeah. We've got things in an internal system as far as, bookkeeping and, even some analytic keeping of, records of rents and all that sort of stuff. But, at the end of the day, it's got to be accessible and it's got to make sense. And I think, if you talk to, my wife, for example, she looks at things completely. She thinks my spreadsheet is old fashioned and archaic and
dinosaur.
A dinosaur, but it works, right? It works.
And you're a competitive guy, and there's the fire still in your belly, and as the leaves start coming down here, you're a hockey player from way back when. Right, so played the Flin Flon Bombers, and all that wonderful stuff. Don't let this mild-mannered, cuddly teddy bear fool you. If you ever get a chance to, there's a many. Sometimes you don't have to use the hands, but if they're ever there, you're able to protect the family, protect the house.
Yeah, buddy, I think my fighting days are long over. Yeah, well, I'd like to say I'm turning into a lover, but I can't testify to that either.
Tracy. So the next round of questioning I want to do is, so you've been an entrepreneur essentially forever. Have you ever had a job?
You know what? When I was in school, I did. Yeah. When I was still in high school, I had a job. I've never worked by the hour in my life.
Yeah. You're unemployable.
I am completely unemployable. I don't sit still well.
Yeah.
I could never be cornered, I think, into an office environment where I'd have to sit still for 8 hours a day.
Where you couldn't drink a beer and wear shorts and come home when you need to come home. But at the same time, sometimes you're there till midnight.
Yeah. On the flip side, it's when it's go time, it's go time.
Yeah.
And I have that mentality. It's like a fire alarm. When it's go time, and thankfully, my family's understanding of that. And, we've got that ability that, sometimes I got to work or have to work, on a weeknight, or and sometimes I can, spend a morning with my family.
Yeah.
It balances out.
Yeah,
right?
and I know for a fact when you get away, you get away. There's if something's burning, maybe call me. Someone's bleeding, maybe, but when you get away, right?
Well, if it can't wait a day or two or a week, I'm probably not your guy.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has to do that, Russ.
Yeah.
I think you need to recharge. We've got a place that we like to go. It's in northern Saskatchewan where the fishing is fantastic and the water's crystal clear.
Yeah.
And
Everything's golden up there.
it's golden, yeah. It's in Saskatchewan, right? The bugs are about this big, but there's no internet.
Yeah.
There's no cell phone service, so it just completely forces a guy to unplug and enjoy life, right?
So I'm going to take a round of questions that, because there's a lot of people that might want to do this real estate game full-time, right? As full-time entrepreneur. And it's not as easy and as glamorous. It's not you're making it rain every day and there's cash everywhere and you're not in front of your Lambos and jet planes and all that kind of stuff. But what would be some of your best business advice that you would offer to people in the realm that they have people that are focused and serious about real estate? What would be some of your best business advice you'd offer?
Never take your foot off the throttle. I don't think you can lose. This is not a business where you can lose momentum. So if you want to take a 6-month break, that's fine. You have to make sure you have the systems in place that things keep rolling while you're not there.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of having a business, is setting up the systems and the people and everything so you can take a month off and things keep rolling. Probably better while I'm not there, actually, right? So it's all good. But and I think of that and just being sure that it fits. Russ, that's a lesson that took me a long time to learn. And, because I'd looked at the opportunity money-wise. And I'm not saying that is super important, but when you acquire that asset, and I always tell people going and buying and again, finding the deal and negotiating, that's the fun part. You get a high off that. It's literally, and then someday all of a sudden you had clothes on it and someone hands you a set of keys and then that's where the rubber hits the road.
What the hell now, right?
Now what? Exactly. So that's where, when that happens, you have to make sure that it fits with your lifestyle and contribute to what you're ultimately going. And I think, in closing on that point is, before you get started, know where you're going, right? I don't know how much more simple to say it is. You have to have that target on the wall and you do not take your eye off that target, and you contribute to it. Some days this much, some days this much, every day. That's the goal.
Is that one of the reasons why, because you see the benefit and the value of it, is that one of the reasons why you put people through a fairly rigorous questionnaire program before they actually will, go out and write an offer? You want to make sure that you're putting the right person into the right asset.
Yeah, and absolutely, you need to understand what they want and if you can help them or not. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we do a lot of research and a lot of effort and a lot of undivided attention to give people to help them get what they want. And if I ask them questions that, I guess seem offensive or not offensive, I'm just trying to make sure that, maybe they're sincere. Yep. And secondly, they know what they want. Yep. And I've seen all over, I've seen people come and sit across from me and say, you know what? I want to buy 10 properties in 3 years' time, and I have $3,000 to my name. Yep. And
make me a hero.
Make me a hero. And I've also seen people that sat there and had $500,000 literally cash and wanted to buy one property. But you know what? This guy over here actually did it. Yeah. This person over here, had the money, had the means, everything, but they just either let people get in their head. They didn't have that clear plan and weren't able to pull the trigger on it. Yeah. And Russ, that's the hardest step. You and I have been there. Yeah. The first step of working through buying a property, getting the tenants in there and just getting your book set up. Once you get to that, you can start, adding, I'm not going to say easily, but in control.
Yeah, there's some heavy lifting up front, like anything in life.
Physically and emotionally, probably more than anything, right?
But especially in the realm of new construction, once you do get one's under management and you get a good tenant profile and things start rolling, it does slow down a lot more, and you're able to quote unquote sit back a little bit more and manage it a little bit more. Back to the conversation, you use a saying all the time, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, and I'd like to hear your perspective on it. So he doesn't know where this is going, but you have a saying that anytime you're going to make a decision, you always will say, "I'm going to sleep on it. Let me sleep on that decision." What does that mean to you when you say that kind of thing, when you're making a very important decision? What does that mean for you?
Good question.
Yeah.
I use that a lot.
Yeah.
That is an absolute requirement.
Yep.
That I sleep on a decision, and I literally sleep on it.
Yep.
I come home, I forget about it, and I have a good rest, and I don't know how rest, but when I wake up in the morning, I got the old gut and heart feeling if it's the right or wrong thing to do.
Yep.
And I follow that for all intents and purposes. I mean, there's maybe situations where, you draw more caution, you need to sleep on it again. But, if in business, and the world has gotten, information travels so fast nowadays, and, there's a lot of good deals out there. And a lot of times you have to react quickly. And I get it, but that's just not me.
Yeah.
If it can't wait overnight and let me sleep on it and make sure that when I wake up in the morning, I'm at ease about it, and it fits, and I even want it more.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
A lot of times it's the opposite. I wake up and I'm like, you know what, after sleeping on it, and you know what, being completely truthful, sometimes.
No, please lie to me.
Okay,
No,
all right. Sometimes I say sleep on it, but sometimes I lay awake in my bed for probably 2 hours in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what, I'm a little tired the next day. I shake it off, have a nap, whatever. But for whatever reason, that's when some very, very clear thoughts hit me.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that. And it's shitty on one sense because I'm tired the next day.
Yep.
But this is a bad habit, and I'm not saying everyone should do it, but I keep a notepad beside my bed.
Yep.
Because if I can wake up and I can get those thoughts out of my head quickly, and I've even got a little voice recorder that I just, quickly use just to get that thought out of my head, and then I can get back to sleep. But past that, there's been many a night where I've laid awake 2-3 hours a night thinking about it, right?
But don't you also use how well you sleep as when you're thinking about something? If you actually have a really good night's sleep, it's actually a sign too.
100%. Yep.
If you wake up the next day, if you've, tossed and turned and wrestled, it is actually, your intuition is telling you something about this as well.
I think unknowingly, Russ, and I don't know how all that works in one's psychological brain, and I'm, far from qualified to talk on that, but I know me, and I know when I have something underlying that's bothering me, I don't sleep well.
Yeah.
Now
you and this is something I take from you, and I'm not even close to being perfect with it. I'm probably still a little bit of a wimp when it comes to this. And that is, if there's an issue and there's a problem, deal with it head on. Don't let it fester. Don't wait it out. With some of these things, if there's something bothering you, something on your mind, you say it, right? Did that come to you just based upon who you are as a person, or was that just something you learned over the years, or did you get burned? How did something like that come to you? You're one of the best I know at this.
Okay, thank you for that. I think it just goes back to that last point. I know when something's bothering me. Yeah. I don't sleep well. I feel it. I feel tight.
I'll tell you, if Jason loses sleep or it impacts his appetite, it's bothering you, right?
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm not one to miss a meal. That's for sure, right? But I just don't like that feeling. Yeah. And I don't think you have to have it, because I've seen, so many circumstances, not only personal, within our family and friends over the years, and in business too, that, dealing with it sometimes not dealing with it is sometimes the worst thing you can do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything in this world that we can't deal with, right? I've had to have some super tough conversations with people before, and, again, if you just, lay the cards on the table and you look at it, and get all your perspectives and you come up with a plan, there's nothing that we can't deal with, Russ.
Yeah.
Right?
And I had somebody that just shared something that was quite profound, is every problem has a solution, And if you can't see the solution in the problem, you're the problem,
Yeah.
right? If you really think about it, that's quite profound. And it's not because I just said it.
Yeah.
it's 100% true.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to just reset the cameras one more time. After this, in the next segment, we're going to have a conversation about resiliency, about maybe some challenging times or some mistakes that we maybe have made, a few things that we bumped up against. There's some people dealing with some things right now out there. You were instrumental for me of dealing with something I've dealt with starting about 2 years ago. I'm about 2.5 years into a 5-year plan of cleaning a few things up. We're going to have a conversation about building that resiliency, fixing some challenges, and then that's what we're going to talk about the next segment. You good with that?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Here with my good friend Jason Mattern. Jay, so obviously we're going to have a conversation about resiliency and some challenging times and things like that. We're here, most of our properties are in Alberta. And, there's some people that are bumping up against a few things, right? It's funny, I was just on a Facebook forum the other day, and this one fellow is just jumping in, and he was sharing about, portfolios upside down, over leveraged, built a big giant portfolio, and what do I do, right? That's a real scenario. There's a lot of people bumping up against that. You've been very helpful to me about 2.5 years ago, probably a little longer than that, of getting something in place. You dealt with something like that probably about 6-7 years ago, right? The first downturn in the marketplace.
2008 and 9.
2008 and 9.
Yeah.
And a lot of people should have dealt with it in 2008 and 9, like myself, but just kept it going and just didn't deal with it back then. What's some of your advice? I know the advice you gave me. Well, what's some of the advice that you give to somebody if they're bumping up against a little bit of a challenging portfolio at the moment, and those kind of things like that?
Okay, well, I think that is a very real circumstance, Russ. I too see it. A lot of the questions, a lot of it is probably, still from that last downturn, right? People have buying real estate back in 06 and 07 at a high and not being able to unload it. And, the tenancy in the property itself gets in a situation where it costs money and you may or may not have the money and the ability to take care of it, right? But I think, kind of circling back on previous advices, you have to know where you're at. That's step one in my mind. Yeah. If I'm sitting there in that situation.
Yeah. And the advice you gave me was, and to tell yourself the truth. Like, there was a lot of people that's when you're taking a look at what the numbers were, we're not fudging it, but you wanted to make it look better than it was. And that's one of the advice you said, is tell the brutal truth about what it is. It is what it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't make it worse. Don't make it better. Just tell what it is.
That's the only way you're going to move past it, right? If you're not real with yourself and your partner and your family, because, as we all know, this will trickle into your family if you let it, right? And, the decisions that we make in real estate and everything we're doing, they have big consequence. There's big risk, there's big reward, right? And it's up to you to know that. So step one is be real with yourself. And you know what? I think I keep hitting the mic here. So yeah.
Did you just waking everybody up?
Yeah.
It's clear.
I had to fight through that myself, because I was ashamed. I don't know how else to say it. I thought I let people down. It was only myself at that time that I'd let down. But, to have that conversation with my wife and saying, look, we got to sell some stuff. We've really went hard in the equity drunk times of 06, 07. We really, really leveraged. And I'm very thankful I'd done that because, it got us out from underneath, which, as we all know, the market did not improve and really has not improved.
It's been almost a lost decade. I no way. There was a little bit of a little dip and a little run in between and things like that, but it's been really almost a decade.
Yep.
Like some of those places we bought 10 years ago have not come back to where they were what we bought 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's real. It's real life, guys. If you think your market only goes up in value and that's it, I hope you never ever. I'm going to look right here as close as I can. I hope you never ever have to deal with it. But it's a reality.
It's a reality.
Yeah.
And I think owning properties through good times and bad times is a reality too.
Yeah.
And I still own properties today that I paid more than what they're worth today. I'm still paying them off.
Yeah.
Where I got caught is I got caught with renovation tabs of tenants. Got to remember, when the market downturns, it just doesn't downturn for you. It downturns for everyone.
Right.
And there's a ripple effect from that. So if tenants lose their job and they leave, I was in a situation where I had tenants for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I bought properties with tenants in them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the downturn, tenants left.
Yeah. And the tenants never leave the really good, pristine places that can be rented tomorrow. They never leave those ones, right?
They never do. And as you can imagine where I'm going with this, what happens in order to re-rent it, you have to throw $5, $10, $15, $20, $25,000 at these things.
Yeah.
That's where I got caught.
Yeah.
And it just was a dead end street, and I cut my losses. And I think that's probably something else that, you have to be prepared to walk away.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to walk away and stand your ground for something that you believe in, you're just willing to accept whatever someone's doling out at you.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to walk away and cut your losses and forget about it and move on.
Yeah. Sometimes the first loss is the best loss and to move on from that. Sometimes, right?
Well, it's the hardest lesson, I think. It's
right.
the hardest one to accept.
Yes. Yeah. And some of it's just ego. That's really jumping in there as well. You said something to me, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you shared a quote with me that was kind of a little bit of a rallying cry for me when it was getting a little dark and things like that. And I'll help you with the quote because I remember it very well. But I wonder if you still remember that quote that you shared with me back in that time when you were helping me through.
I'm sure there was several quotes.
It had something to do with on the other side.
That's right. Your destiny's on the other side. You're in preparation now for your destiny.
Yeah. There's something great waiting for you on the other side of this challenge, and you just have to prove that you can pass it.
You have to pass the test.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's my mother speaking on my shoulder right now of, that sometimes you get doled out things in life that, you look at them and you think, holy cow, how are you ever going to get this? But you got to understand, I guess, if, it's a test, I don't know how else to say it. I guess I'm not a religious guy, but I'm a faithful guy. And, understanding that perhaps our paths are laid out there for us already. And you're not, it's just, the way I operate with my kids. I'm not going to give them more unless they can prove to me they're good with what they have,
Right. Yeah.
So I remember that, and I think I remember where I told that to you.
Yeah, it was Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons parking lot in Northeast Edmonton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where we have our really high end meetings.
Yeah.
And there were some tears, and there was some really, you could see I was defeated, right? And then your point earlier about don't take your foot off the gas, took my foot off the gas for quite a while, actually. And confidence is one of those things. It's tough to get back. It's easy to lose, tough to get back, right?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But look at you today, Russ.
Oh yeah, you look at me, just a specimen of oozing confidence. Yeah, I'm just getting started with getting into my realm as well with things.
But you're real. Yeah. You are 100% real, and not that you weren't before, but there was this little thing off to the side that you didn't deal with. Yeah,
and you talked about a thing of shame, like talking about feeling shame. I 100%. I had an ego attached to being a guy on stage, and I'm the one teaching this. The guy teaching this shouldn't go through this stuff. So I actually downplayed it. I hid it. I didn't tell anybody about it. And then until it gets to a point where I'm sitting there crying myself to sleep on a giant pillow at night because, things are not what they seem. Nope. Right. So,
and I think now looking past that, and I remember one of the first public speaking events you did after that, when you actually told your story and you stood up there and you told the audience everything real, what had transpired, and you could hear a freaking pin drop in that room. And I think people were welling up with tears in the room listening to it, and you were very emotional with it. You did a great job holding yourself together, right? But, I think people just, they didn't listen to you, Russ. They felt it off you completely, right?
Well, it's no different than most people were already probably feeling. And it's just being authentic and just being mindful of how most people were feeling.
if you think you're going to go through life and not make a mistake, you're probably not my type of people. Like, I mean, I know
you're not cut out for real estate.
You're not cut out for real estate either.
Yeah.
I mean, you just need to be real, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to have hard times. We're going to have bad times. And you know what? At the end of the day, we'll sit around and have a beer and talk about it because this is what's most important, right?
And now, if you really think about it, so you dealt with yours, probably about 5 or 6 years before I dealt with it. So it was really good to have you as a resource that I could come talk to. And I coined mine the good, the bad, and the ugly plan. Sometimes you had to actually sell a few good properties to free up enough money so you could actually get rid of some of the really ugly properties. And then hopefully after you're all said and done, you're left with a couple places left over.
Yeah.
Right? What was the biggest benefit out of when you went through your challenging time in resiliency? You actually discovered entire new business models from there. What was the biggest benefit that you came out of going through all that entire process?
I think anytime you're pushed back into a corner like that, speaking of resiliency, you start thinking outside the box. If you're complacent and things are going not well, or if you're complacent and they are going well, you're not innovating. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that happened to, or benefit and lesson that I learned is real estate markets don't swing overnight, right? They move in cycles, no doubt about it. But there are key indicators that you can absolutely watch and keep an eye out to know when the market is trending either way or still or whatever, right? And the second thing I learned with that is, don't get complacent, right? There's always something better. The world's not sitting still. No one is sitting still. This is a very competitive environment. And you have to be, as I alluded to earlier, not taking your foot off the throttle. That might mean actually, going through the websites and looking at ads and ideas. That might mean looking at new video ideas. That might, that's all encompassing. Don't take your foot off the throttle. You're always getting better. And it's never going to quit. I think if you want to stop getting better and you're tired of it, get out of the game. It's okay. That's okay too. I've seen a lot of people that have really succeeded, and whether they lose their desire or ambition to do it, or they're just plain satisfied, it's okay to walk away too if you got what you want. Congratulations, right? I hope I can feel that someday, right?
Now, speaking, you mentioned a term called innovation, and I'm not saying you're the pioneer with this whole realm of new construction for rental properties and things like that, but I think you really have taken it up to the next level. It's interesting to see how many people are now talking about new construction properties, and you've been advocating these for better part of 6-7 years now, right? Talk to me about the process that you came to realization, how you discovered the joys and benefits of owning a brand new construction property.
It happened by accident. It literally,
like most things in life.
It literally happened by accident. If you remember back in 2003, I had bought some lots in Fort Saskatchewan.
Okay, yes.
And I bought 8 duplex lots and started building duplexes. I didn't know, I knew I wanted to, I didn't know how, and, we did. And the first 2 units, the idea to do it, by the way, just to clarify, was to flip them. Right? I was going to build them. I looked at the profit margin I could make. I was going to flip them. Well, I couldn't sell them. Right? The first 2 come to fruition and I couldn't sell them. And of course, the bank wants their money every month. So
yes, unfortunately.
That's right. And this is where I actually bounced into a tenant situation with new construction, which was fantastic, which was better than what I had, because at that point in time, I had some older suited properties, a couple small multifamily buildings. And, I was chasing the cash flow perspective of the pro forma.
Yeah.
And then what happened is I had the tenants in the property for a year and 2, and these people are still with me. It's like, wow.
And you're looking at the numbers and the black and white truth about the ownership experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it just made sense. My repairs and maintenance just was literally nothing.
That's a technical term for good.
Yeah. Did nothing, And the tenants were still with me.
Yeah.
So going back to those three variables that we originally talked about, repairs and maintenance, vacancy, and management costs, all three of them were literally non-existent.
Yeah.
And that cash flow, computed into mortgage principal pay down.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you actually then took it even another step forward into how you like to design and the materials you use. And because quite frankly, you can actually put way too much into materials and way over renovate it and build it and stuff like that. Or you can kind of find the sweet spot of things. And you've been through 7 years of kind of fine tuning the spec, if you will. Talk about some of the things that you've learned along the way about the proper spec to have into a good brand new construction rental property.
Well, even that's 2003 and 4. So that's like scraping like 13, 14 years now, right? Of the new construction. And then what happens over a time period is you realize just by experience of what tenants like, what they don't like, what the sweet spot is, of having 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, upper floor laundry facilities, that means a lot to the mom that's going to be renting the property for her family, right? And, getting into the specifications, it was just literally probably analyzing the property and looking at it. Okay, I bought a new construction property that I made, but I made the decks out of treated lumber. I made the fence out of treated lumber. The front step was out of treated lumber that was painted. I had drop down light fixtures. I didn't put washers in behind, passage doors, just little things, right? That become maintenance issues, right? And just like, okay, well, how can we make this better? How can we make this better? Well, this tenant wants this tenant wants this, and then it's just, come in full circle now to where, we can design this stuff from scratch, and it not only makes sense from a tenancy, but they're really easy to own, and there's not a lot of maintenance to them.
Yeah.
So example, composite decking material, aluminum railing, recessed pot lights, just things that one probably wouldn't think of walking through a property until your tenant, knocks out the light fixture or,
and the time to do all that is actually really at design phase and at pre-build as opposed to after the fact type of stuff. It's amazing. You talk about recessed pot lighting. You can go into places bought in the 70s and 80s and there's no lighting at all. And, you got to have lamps and there's very little lighting in there at a lot of properties as well. So it's just really just taking the feedback and looking at it from as an investor yourself of buying that, right?
Well, specification-wise, yes. So the investor side, what I just talked about, is actually owning the property, right? And then, on the front side of it, the acquisition side, there's a happy medium between maximum rent and overbuilding it, if that makes sense. And you have to find, the sweet spot of what you can get the most rent for and build it the most efficiently. Not cheap isn't the right word. It's efficient. And there's a size that goes with that. And a floor plan. And a lot, right?
Yeah, and you've just almost got it down to like a science now about the when you go and you pick out, you like to see a certain lot size, a certain floor plan, and which you actually work with builders. You essentially say, here's the floor plan, here's the design. These are investment grade properties that I want you to build. And share some of those insights that you have. Like I know when you tell me about, here in Edmonton, a lot is determined by the frontage of the property, right? And you only like a certain pocket size, and you're just like, when you get going, I go, man, I just like, it's like my eyes glaze over. It's like I've had too many Bud Light or something.
Yeah, well, that can happen too. But you know what? It again boils down to getting that maximum rent. So I know, even taking it one step further, I know the tenant profile that I absolutely love, right? And that's a mom and dad, a small child or two. Dad works in the oil field or service industry, makes 120 to 150 a year. Mom's a stay-at-home mom and drives a 2-year-old SUV, right? And that's the tenant profile that I chase. I catch these people right before they engage on home ownership, right? And they would buy a home themselves and they tried, but they don't have the 5% or a mom and dad to lend it to them, or B, that new 3/4 ton diesel truck sitting in the driveway, that darn payment's getting in the road for another 3.5 years. So they end up renting something. That's the tenant profile. So I know what I can get for rent from those people as far as a maximum rent of what they can afford.
Yeah.
Everything is reverse engineered from there. And just getting into the property details, it's a 1,500 square foot, 2-story house, perhaps with a legal basement suite, or perhaps a side-by-side duplex, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, laundry facilities on the upper floor.
In certain areas, in this hand-selected areas within the area in town and things like that too.
Absolutely, yeah. And, so they have to be in areas that people want to be, that tenants want to be. So they're close to schools, they're close to recreation facilities, they're close to major shopping, coffee shops, right? Who doesn't like a Timmy's or a Starbucks close by? Close to grocery stores, Shoppers Drug Mart, all that sort of stuff. And close to transportation. You've got to remember our tenant profile, or my tenant profile, most of them drive trucks. Most of them work, in and around the area. They need to be close to transportation, which for the most part puts me around, for those of you who are familiar with the Anthony Henday Freeway, right?
Now I hope you guys really get how clear Jason is on his tenant profile. You start your purchase decision based upon who you want to rent to, who your customer is. Then it's what you buy, where you buy, and who you put in it. The 3 pillars of real estate. That's your, I don't know if it's trademarked. You should have trademarked it, by the way, as I see a lot of people using that now, including myself, right? But who you rent to is the most important of that. But then where you buy it and what you buy is actually dependent upon who you rent to. So they all they're like a Venn diagram where they all meet together.
Step 3 is the most important, and you can't do step 3 correctly unless you do steps 1 and 2 right, is buy the right property in the right neighborhood, right?
But you didn't, and I know for a fact I didn't, when I first started, I didn't even know who my tenant profile was. Is it cheap? And does it cash flow on a pro forma basis, which is kind of a BS number anyways, right?
It's a snapshot.
Yeah.
It's a snapshot, right? It's not probably real long term.
Yeah.
Right. So
what are some of and we talked about this a little while ago, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see investors are making right now when they're coming in and you talk to investors all the time. You're probably having conversations every day with investors and helping them out with things. So with 2,200 transactions under your belt, you probably have, and times have changed massively. Alberta is not the same as it was a decade ago. What are some of the big mistakes investors are making that you see coming through, and how can they mitigate those mistakes?
They're pro forma shopping, if that makes sense. If you're not an investor and you don't have the experience, it's just like when you're going to buy a commodity or an appliance or a car, you might be lining up specifications and horsepower and all that sort of stuff. You don't like the car, the appliance, you go and trade it in. It's not quite that easy with real estate, right? And real estate has other, not variables, but goals tied to it of why you're buying it. You're not buying it to drive down the freeway and show off to your buddies, maybe, right? Yeah. But I see a lot of people that look at properties out there that show a great cash flow on paper, but when we talked about getting the keys handed to you on closing day, it's a completely different story, right? And I see people buying properties without a proven track record, right? So if this property or is a new development or it's in the city of Edmonton for, possible approval, that's a good thing. That's innovation. That's never going to happen. But until you can actually run one of those through a process of buying it and leasing it to a client, finding out what the profile is, who is it, and what are they going to pay for it, and how long are they going to stay, I'll give you a case and example. The city of Edmonton is talking about introducing side-by-side duplexes with suites in them. Right now, I am not a fan of that. I might be. I'm going to try one, right? And see how that works out.
But you live here, and you're also going to manage it with your proven process of managing it too, right? Not everybody has 18 years of experience and also all the systems and process in place. This could be their first transaction ever.
Right. But my point is that if I show you a pro forma on this brand new property that looks like $1,200 a month cash flow, well, there's a big gap between $1,200 a month cash flow and getting the keys handed to you. What if you buy it and there's too much density? What happens if no one rents the basement suites? If no one rents your basement suites, you're going to be in a negative cash flow situation, right? And this is where you do the flip side to it. You maybe don't take a property that cash flows as good, but it just goes every month. Remember, every time a tenant leaves, it costs you money.
Yes.
People don't think of that. That's your biggest cost is a tenant leave. You got to fix it up perhaps. You got to clean it. You got to remarket it. You got to show it. You might have to sit on a vacant property for a month or two. Like there's substantial costs tied to it.
You walked us through one of your side-by-sides that was, the tenant had just left. How long were they there? They were, was it 5 years or was it was 5 years?
5 years.
And it was immaculate. And you know, people might say, well, you just got lucky, you got really good tenants. Well, the property that you had dictated the type of tenant. And truly there was, what did you have to do to turn it over?
Clean it.
You had to clean it.
Clean it. And we turned it over within a week. We literally had zero downtime on it, right?
So during a time where people were really been struggling to fill some vacancies, what has been your issue? Have you had issues with vacancies during some of the times?
This last while, no, we haven't, honestly. We just had another turnover in a side-by-side duplex, and the tenants were moving out. The new tenants were moving in the next day. Now that happens by design, I guess I can say somewhat. You know, and we start showing our properties, you know, a month or two in advance when we know a tenant's leaving. And the tenants are cooperative. They're a family, Russ. They're you know, they're not staff taking care of our assets. Like we literally get these people good Christmas presents every year. We keep in touch with them. We know when their kids' birthdays are. I mean, it's along with that, there's a relationship and there's a mutual respect, and they take care of you've seen how they take care of the properties.
Well, let's put it this way. They're in in some cases, $500,000 assets. Right? And they're paying you, your average rent is what, $1,800?
Probably $1,800, $1,900.
$1,800. So this is for rough number, $2,000. So $24,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good customer.
That's a good customer.
Right?
Yeah.
And you said earlier that, you know, from your dad being in the service gas station, and you learned a lot of lessons in the car washes that your dad had and the gas stations. I remember the one story you shared with me. Oh, tell the story about when you would go to collect the coins from the car washes. Remember that?
Which one? On top of the?
No, in the back of the car when you had all the coins in the back of the car.
Literally having, you know, in those days it was quarters, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, literally having 5-gallon pails of quarters that would bring home and would roll up in a machine, right? And I was the kid when growing up that I needed a new pair of blue jeans. My dad had flipped me 4 rolls of quarters to go down to the store and buy it, right?
Here's Jason down there. Here's the rolls of quarters.
Yeah.
Did you have to do the rolling yourself?
I helped. Yeah, I helped. And then, you know, we got high tech and got a fancy machine for it. But
you would have learned a lot of customer service from having a bricks and mortar service business with your dad, the things.
I grew up, from my earliest memories, I grew up pumping gas and washing windows and, you know, washing car wash bays and mopping the floor in the laundromats. And that was my mom and dad's businesses, was gas stations, car washes, and laundromats, right?
And you've taken that attitude to as being a property owner and a landlord. Really is doing a lot of the treating the people coming through. Someone coming through for gas. How can I check your oil? Can I look? Can I wash your windshield? All those kind of things. You just treat the exact same attitude.
The customer's always right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, the tenants are your customer too.
Yeah.
You know, and there's times, Russ, where I grit and I say, you know what, you did it. Yeah. You know, I know you did it, right? Yeah. But you know, I also want a good relationship with these people. And I want them, if there's repairs or maintenance, I do want them to call me. I don't want them not to handle it. Yeah. If they did it or not, that's a completely different issue. But my point is, as the owner and the guy that's taking care of that building envelope, I want it running efficiently. And if I know that there's a water leak that could cause future damage and get under flooring or whatever else, I want to nip it in the butt. I want them to phone me right away.
Yeah, not knowing is worse than them actually being a pain in, over telling you about properties, issues, right?
Deal with it.
Yeah, you shared a really cool story, and it's actually a cool story that has 2 threads. That one is the benefit of new construction, and also the length you go to make sure that the tenant is well. It was one of the tenants that it was in Fort Saskatchewan, I believe, and they were over above the garage, and there was maybe a lack of insulation on the bedroom there, and they were complaining it was cold. And tell that story about that.
Well, it was a covered deck, and the bedroom was above the covered deck. And they had a newborn baby, and they were complaining that it was cold in that room. And, we had to take all the soffit down and re-insulate it and, just make it right. Yeah.
But then the builder, there was a deficiency or something.
It was a deficiency, and we went back to the builder, and they actually covered it, so. Having that warranty aspect and that service provider that you wouldn't otherwise have on any of my older stuff, that happens in any of my older stuff. It's my tab.
It's $3,000 out of your pocket, out of Hip National Bank. Instead of having filet mignon, you're now having a different cut of steak tonight.
Pork chops.
Pork chops.
Yeah, pork chops.
Last segment here, Jay. But here we're going to wrap this up shortly. But truly, I honestly think this is just the start of some things that we can talk about. And I also think that there's some steaks going to be put on a grill here very soon too. And Jason cooks a mean steak on the barbecue. So, Jason, so you've been there, done that. You've done a whole bunch of things. You've been an entrepreneur all your life. You're on your plan to get your portfolio free and clear. What's next for you? What's the next mountain that you are going to tackle? What's your next Stanley Cup that you're going to win?
The next Stanley Cup, you know what? I think is probably twofold. I've got an 8-year-old boy who's going to be 9 right away, and I've got an 11-year-old daughter who are in sports.
Who's going to be 20?
Who's going on 20 already. Holy cow. But you know what? They're in competitive sports, and that's probably going to consume a lot of my next 5-6 years on one aspect. And the next aspect, I've got the asset base. I feel that I'm getting to the point where I have the home front taken care of. Yep. Right. And all I need to do is stay course and be regiment and manage these properties and upgrade and move the equity into newer ones and keep on. Is to probably, in the business world a little bit, I see a lot of inefficiencies in the real estate industry. And, you know what? I see a lot of people with mortgage rule changes, with the economic downturn. I see a lot of people that are not able to get into homes. And I think one of the, challenges that I am going to take upon is to try and help Albertans get into new homes. And we've got some ideas and some business planning behind that. So to answer your question, there's a new business model on the horizon. And, whether that's the Stanley Cup or not remains to be seen. But it's, again, that fire is burning in the belly and it's just not time to relax yet. Like I said, I can't sit still well. And I don't know if that'll ever leave me, Russ. My family accepts me for who I am. And I never quit thinking, right? It's always...
So the next phase is to make sure the kids turn out the way, with good guidance. You're one of the best dads I know. I just see the way you, you're firm but fair, right? Is the best way I could say it. The kids don't, if they're out of line, they know you don't bubble wrap them. Like sometimes people bubble wrap the kids, or their kids never do any wrong and things like that. But you're firm but fair, but they're just such well-adjusted kids that are just fun to be around. So, but that's a direct reflection on you and Tracy, on the way you guys bring up your kids.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And I firmly believe that you have some big plans, and I know you're being modest of sharing them, but you have some really big plans in the background of how you'd like to see some changes in the real estate industry, which maybe could be another conversation that we'll have.
I hope so. Yeah.
And also, I've seen the business plan about how you're going to, potentially help Albertans get into properties. How you're going to own the property and you're going to provide the financing, in-house financing for people that are coming in. If they come into a new home into a show home environment, and maybe they don't have all the money or just something's just missing for them to get in, potentially you could be a financing option for them.
Well, that's the plan. Yep. And like I say, it's something that, again, just happened organically. Yep. And just because of where I'm positioned in life in general, I see this not only from a tenant perspective, from people renting our homes, but I see it on the front lines, as a real estate agent, have a team of agents selling new homes too. It's something that needs to be addressed. And you know what? I'm up for the challenge. So we'll see what happens with it, right? And
the only reason why you're able to really even tackle that and do that is because you've got the fortress built around the home base and around the, for lack of better terms, the portfolio of properties. You built a fortress around it and got a moat around it and protect it. That's your first, the portfolio of real estate you have, right? When that's free and clear, then there's a completely different outlook on life with the free and clear portfolio.
Yep, I think so. As I alluded to right in the beginning of our discussion here today, that's the first check mark, is to make sure that home front, fortress, whatever you want to call it, is taken care of. And we're getting close. Dad time is getting more valuable and more in demand. And, I want to be there for, and I know all the moms and dads out there know this, but I think you have such a short time to make an impression on your child's life and actually get them, because, probably by the time they're 16 nowadays and they have their own steering papers, they're making decisions on their own. And all I want to be able to do is teach my kids the flip side to every decision you make. There's risk, reward, consequence, pleasure to every decision you make. And sometimes you just need to sleep on it, or, sit back for the count of 10 and think about it before you do something.
Yeah, and no different than how with your dad, how impacted your life of watching how he interacted with people at the gas station and the car washes, and just how he treated the employees and always having the fridge stocked and all those kind of things. Those impacted your life. And you're now doing the same with Jenna and Harry. And kids, they see these things, right? Even though they might not, they see this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's who you show up. It makes all the difference with especially with the family, right?
I think so. Yeah. It's teaching awareness, right? You, if I can relate it to sports, right, and relate it to hockey, my absolute favorite sport. You have to know what you're going to do with the puck before you get it. And time is everything. And as you get through life, those time to make decisions sometimes shrinks, right? And I mean, it all happens. I know, having kids, my life just went and got busy in the last, especially 5-6 years. And I think it's just natural progression of life or business or whatever anyone's in, you know.
You just shared something with me, and I never did get the full story. And I'm actually going to see if we can get it on camera. I'm not going to mean to put you on the spot, but you just shared that your mom and dad had a milestone anniversary. 50 years. So congratulations, Jack and Della, the most amazing people you'll ever meet in your life. But you said it had a little bit of an impact on you going back and seeing that. Share some of the insights that you had of having that with your mom and dad and having them go through that process. What impact did that have on you?
Well, I think just seeing the moment. And recognizing the actual milestone that it actually is to be, married for 50 years and still in love and still wanting to be with each other. And I think just, getting right back down to basics, it just probably put in perspective to me what I actually want in life. And you know what? There's a lot of people out there that, I need $10 million or $100 million, or I need 100 doors. And, that's great. And
you'll help them out.
And I'll gladly help them out. But it again, and you've heard me say this before, the time is the one thing that you don't get more of. And I've had some, friends and family die suddenly in the last year on me. And it's just been a kind of a game changer for me to understand, and whether you have money or not, it's completely irrelevant. When you die, they dig the hole, they kick you in it, and kick dirt on top of you. Not kick you in it, but place you in it, kick dirt on top of you. And it's all done. And I think going to that anniversary, and it's funny because, everyone knows there's one gentleman that was in the room. Everyone knows he's the richest guy in the area by far. And you know what? He he wasn't dressed like a hobo, but I mean, he was just there having fun and no one thought any different. And I think it just, put it in perspective for me that I know what ground central is. I know what, that first check mark is. And to me, I know what I want to do with life, with my time, and I love quadding. I love going fishing, I love antique tractors, and, I've got some hobbies, and, anytime I get associated with that type of stuff, it's just, I'm like a little kid in a candy shop again.
You're a happy guy, Jason. I hope you're okay if I share this. Jason sent me a picture, or it was on Facebook, your first Facebook video ever.
I learned how to do a Facebook
first
post.
time ever with big fat meat hooks like this, pushing buttons is sometimes a thing. And Harry got his first antique tractor, and I couldn't tell if Junior was more excited or if Papa was more excited about the tractor that they got.
Yeah, it's just, that old stuff in general, it's just so cool, right? It's these were real big items back in the day, and they're cool to rejuvenate, right? Yeah, but anyhow, that's what it boils down to us is that time, family, freedom of knowing how I want to spend my time, and I know how much money I need to do that, and God willing, I get blessed with a long, healthy life that I can do that, because on this side, I'm getting prepared for that. I just need to get doing it now, right?
Yeah. Well, I could go on, but I do have one last question I'm gonna leave with here in a second. But before I get to that, I just wanted to acknowledge. I just wanted to say thank you. I am honored and I'm humbled to call you a friend. The one thing I can say about you, Jay, is no matter what has happened, you will always have my back. And I know you're that way with most people in your life. If that's the best way I can describe you, is you will always have people's back. And there's just something about you is that you're a good friend, and you're got such a wisdom about you that I think we need to share a little bit more of you with more people. That's just my own personal opinion. And I'm truly touched to have you in my life. And I just want to honor that.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So final message, what do you want to leave? My guiding principles in my life is inspiration, encouragement, and come from a place of love. And I always like to leave it at the last. And you can have the last word typically here if you want. What kind of inspiration would you leave with people that are maybe feeling a little bit stuck, or maybe they're wanting to pull the trigger and get into real estate? What would be some of your sagely advice that you'd like to leave with people here as we sign off?
Great question. I think just understand what you want, and where real estate fits in your life, right? Because if you know what you want to do with your life, and that can be a car, that can be a boat, that can be an antique tractor, that can be, a holiday, it doesn't matter. But if you know, and you know when you need it, real estate is a tool and an asset that will provide that for you, right? And when you look and you understand that, we can kind of reverse engineer everything backwards with real estate. And it's so important, everyone, that you buy real estate that's going to match your lifestyle. I've seen it. We're talking how many transactions, and I've seen probably hundreds come back where it's been the opposite. They bought the wrong property, and a year or two later, the husband and wife are fighting, or they've gone through a bad tenant situation, and it's having emotional strife on their family situation. And this is not why we're doing this. This contributes to what we're doing as a family.
Yeah, it shouldn't be your life. It should fund it.
It should fund it. Yeah, exactly. And probably the one of your sayings is shoot the puck, right? And just be aware. You have to be aware, and you have to fly into every deal with your eyes wide open, and make sure you look at every deal for a term of ownership. And if that's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, make sure you look at that property for that time period when you're buying it. You know what? Realize if you're buying an older property, you might need $7,000 in 4 years for that roof, right? And just, plan ahead. Don't be afraid to go for it, right? Because you know what? One thing I guess my dad has always taught me, no one's going to do it for you, right? and just be accepting of the path. We have good days, we have bad days, and just understand that you need to grow and you need to pass the test,
Yep.
right?
And every day above ground's a good day.
Every day above ground is a good day,
Right.
Yeah, especially days like this.
Yes, couldn't have said it better myself. So we got some steaks to put on the barbecue.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe another, sorry for saying, we maybe have another beer to crack here or two.
Or two.
Or
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
So Jason, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, guys, stay tuned for the next interview. It's my good friend, Jason Mattern.
I sure hope you enjoyed this in-depth training video, and I applaud you for sticking around right to the very end. I believe in people that show up, put in the work, put in the time, and effort should be rewarded. If you're interested in taking the next step, if you're interested in going deeper and mastering what you just learned about in this training video, I encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. So if you have found that you've received some value from the YouTube channel, or maybe you've listened to a podcast, you're only scratching the surface. That truly is just 1/10 of 1% of all the content and materials that have been created that are waiting for you on the other side. So I encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. There's more than 100+ hours of video content, audio content, exclusive training material for those that are interested in taking the next step, those that are interested in going towards mastery, those that are interested in moving forward with velocity. So I would encourage you, wherever you're watching this video, around this video will be a link where you can check out all the details of the Raising Capital Academy. After you've checked out all the details on that page and you're interested in moving forward with velocity, click on the link that will take you towards the application. This is by application only. This is a community program and is for serious action takers only. So if you want to step up your game, if you have goals and dreams and aspirations for more, if you'd like to make a difference in the financial futures of the most important people in your life, I highly encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. Click on that link and you'll be taken to the next step in the process to see if you qualify to take the next step forward for you. Hope to see you on the other side. Bye for now. Hey, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in moving forward with velocity, if you're interested in being a successful real estate investor, only 2 simple next steps from here. Number 1, below where you're watching this, there will be an opportunity for you to subscribe. And over here will be a hand-selected video for you to keep moving forward. Continue your journey forward. Just click on over here for that hand-selected video for you, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you very much.